encourage them to choose something that they're going to do that they'll move on to after graduation. And it's really an important commitment that they're making to themselves. So we want to make sure that they understand that they have a support system in the Dayton Public Schools and in the community in case they need resources and in case they need help. We're here to support them because they are always part of DPS. Our high schools are very, very comprehensive. Any student that goes through any one of the Dayton Public School high schools has that opportunity to make those choices and to be educated and prepared for any career path that they make.
Welcome Stadium, this is a great place to host special events, and especially when it's an event for Edwin C. Moses Relays. We had a good mix of teams from all over the place. We actually had a team from West Virginia, some Cleveland schools, some Cincinnati schools, so it's always good to have different competition and to be able to share our home with a variety of people.
Well, it was amazing because this is their first time being able to compete on the facilities track, and they found out it's a lot different than before. It's a lot faster than before, and not only that, but to experience having a gentleman who never lost a race in 10 years here to watch them and to provide them with medals. It was an amazing experience.
The Dayton Relays, as it was called, we should really work to build that up because it was one of the top track meets in the state of Ohio. People from all around the state would come, all the best schools, all the best relays. You know, this is a prime facility, and we need to get kids more involved in sports on a competitive level as well as sports on the academic level.
My name is Kevin G. Jewett. I work for Dayton Public Schools. I am a bus driver and OBI trainee at this time. When I joined DPS, it was at a time where me as a bricklayer, I couldn't find a job, and they have kept me working ever since I got here. Long as you have integrity, they trust.
Don't forget to turn on and off their mics.
Primarily integrity and trust. As long as you fair about that, they're fair with you. Bus driver to me means
now call to order
and
this July 18th, 2023 business meeting. Madam Treasurer, may we have a roll call?
President Goodwin.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Present.
Mr. Sampson.
Here.
Ms. Wigania.
Present.
Dr. Pickett.
Oh, she's going to arrive later.
Okay. Ms. Reiner.
Present.
Mr. Lacey.
Here.
6 present.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, held up by our Chief of HR. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First thing we have tonight are hearing of the bargaining units, and I don't see, no one's here. All right. Next, we'll go to public comment. Do we have anyone registered to speak tonight?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to remind the public that your time is limited to 3 minutes. Please direct your comments to the entire board. Don't individually put out individuals. Same thing as anything else. And again, things that are inappropriate to talk about are matters of personnel that are directly on someone. Go ahead with our first speaker.
Jermika Hood. Jermika Hood.
I do not see. Jamaica Hood. Okay, the next one.
Courtney Jeter. Courtney.
Okay.
David Ezrati.
Okay. I do see Mr. Ezrati. Mr. Smith, can you please keep time? And let the record reflect that board member Dr. Pickett has arrived.
David Ezrati, 113 Bonner Street,
Dayton. Looked for board docs a couple days ago. Looked for it yesterday. Shows up today. I would hope with a new superintendent that we can actually work on transparency and getting this up in time for people to observe and see what's going on. I've not ever been in the back end of board docs, but I do know from as a web developer that the attaching of constant PDF files as part of the way you're putting it in it makes it inaccessible to blind people or extremely difficult. A lot of the things, I open up a document and boom, it's just what could have been text. In order for it to be fully ADA compliant, you shouldn't have to click to see things on a separate page or a separate application. You are not reaching people you need to reach. It's not searchable. It's not easy to use. You pay a lot of money for this. There's got to be a way to do it properly so you could be able to read these things even on a phone, because half the people using the internet these days do it from a mobile device. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, can you imagine in the middle of a battle, the general dies, and nobody knows who's supposed to step up into the position of leadership? Nope, that's not the way it works in military. They always have a colonel standing by, and the colonel becomes the new leader. The word interim is one of those words that you use when you don't have any respect for somebody. He is your leader. He's going to be your leader for the next year. Treat him as a leader, or why don't you quit? Please, if you can't make the man the superintendent on a one-year contract with true performance goals of what you expect from him, what you want him to do, what you want him to reach, that you can present to the community, measurable objectives, and have evaluations based on how well he achieves those, you're not doing your job. You're not being effective. You're not doing what's in the best interest of this community. Anybody who has this job should have the respect of the board that they work for. And they should have the backing and support, because in a year from now, if he does his job, you'll all look good. If he doesn't do his job and he's not reaching those goals as you're moving forward,
That's your time.
then you replace him.
Thank you for your time and your comments. Are there any other speakers, Madam Treasurer?
No.
Right. I did see a member of the bargaining union come in. I just wanted to see if you wanted to say something before we moved on. Come on up.
Good evening. Protocol's been established. Dr. Goodwine, Dr. Lawrence, all of you board members, I am Marie R. Winfrey, President of Local 627 Transportation Drivers. Amen. Okay. Excuse me for running late. What I want to discuss is we've had some issues these last 3-4 weeks, payroll issues. Some of my drivers haven't been paid. Caused some issues dealing with arrears in their accounts and different things. But what I'm asking, those are the problems. Hopefully we can get it all solved and resolve the solution. But I also have a solution. When I come with a problem, I'm coming with a solution. We're asking that you can get us a payroll clerk at the Transportation Department. I'm not sure if the executive directors have put a proposal in yet. If they have, please, if you can, Madam and Sirs, to approve it. If not, hopefully their one will be coming forth soon. Our directors and supervisors should be doing things of helping us to gather the things that's needed for the Transportation Department and supervising. We need a payroll clerk that handles all payroll issues, that we will not have the same issue we've had for the past 4 to 5 weeks, where several drivers have not gotten paid and some are hopefully will be paid this upcoming pay cycle. That is one of my issues that I have that I'm presenting to the board. Also, another issue is presenting to the board is dealing with parents' participation. Hopefully, the board will get to the parents before transportation start this upcoming month in August, that we will let them know about the students riding the buses, what the code of conducts are. Please let them know ahead of time about the behavior issues. It's the same as in the building. It's the same that is on the school bus. All these things, I thank you so much for your time and attention. Please take acknowledge the things that I brought to the board. Thank you.
Thank you. As always, we appreciate you. I did have a question for you real quick. I mean, you mentioned something. I just want to make sure people know. You said that the rules about being on the bus will be out there. Will those be available at the open houses, or is there something special that parents can come to? Like, how would they find out about this information?
Some of those codes that I brought to your attention is in the student handbook.
Okay.
They're in the student handbook. Those codes that they have, the behaviors that they have, or the issues they have, the codes are in our student handbook, but we can present you the ones that we have from Ohio Department of Transportation, and the ones we do have that's in our listing that we use towards Ohio Department of Transportation, the same thing we have. So please, if we can.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Dr. Lawrence, your first recommendation.
I recommend the approval of the following human resources item 3A.
All right. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Are there any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr.
Oh,
Smith.
sorry. Let me change. I abstain.
President, Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wiegany,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
6 yeses, 1 abstain.
Your next recommendation.
I recommend the approval of the following human resources DEA separations after July 10th.
Before we go on, there's actually nothing on the board doc. Do you guys have some on your papers? Okay. All right. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved in second. I may have a question first, because it looks like this was actually on the last one too, guys. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Never mind. It's just on this paper. All right. Seeing none, Madam Treasurer, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
No.
Mr. Sampson,
No.
Ms. Wiegany,
No.
Dr. Pickett,
No.
Ms. Reinhardt,
No.
Mr. Lacy.
No.
6 no, 1 yes.
All right. Your next recommendation.
I recommend the approval of the following consulting services item 3C.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and properly second. Are there any questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
How is this different from it was last Thursday? Is this the same number of consultants that we had before?
No, this is a different number of consultants. There are two consultants that have been in the room that were elementary school consultants.
Which were mind playing?
There were two individual consultants.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
Mind Play was
which
removed,
ones
but
were
not
taken
here.
out?
Yeah, there were two. There were two.
Right, but which ones were taken out?
Elementary school consultant. Yeah, there was a duplicate last week. But yes, Mind Play was taken out.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? All right. Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wiegany,
Yes.
This one.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Gotcha.
All right, your next recommendation?
I recommend the approval of the following contracts and agreements. 3D.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and properly second. Are there any questions? Board Member Sampson.
Thank you, Madam President. I just have a question about the highlighted City of Dayton, where it says to cover the district's portion of shared services for a fire instructor at $100,000. What is the city's portion of this staff member?
Board Member Sampson, I do not know that. Stacy, would you happen to know that, Ms. Manning? Okay, we can get that to you.
Thank you, Madam President.
Board Member Vice President Smith.
Yes, with that as well, I see it says the fire instructor is going to be over at Ponence. Is Ms. Savage still doing the police work over at Ponence? Yes. Okay. And so then does this supplement what was going on over at Belmont, or are we moving that out of Belmont?
Can you come up to the mic, please?
So the fire program was at Belmont. The instructor resigned after, I believe, the second year of the program. It was a really rigorous program. The kids were struggling. So a lot of the kids that were enrolled in that program really wanted EMT. So this past year, there was an EMT instructor at Ponence as kind of a standalone course elective. This year, it'll be a full pathway, so the instructor can work in tandem with the law enforcement instructor and have both public safety people in the same place.
Okay, so students that take that, they'll take one course where they dive in all of these things, or will they do something, do police, do EMT? How will that work for them? If they
I would have to look at the course offerings again, but I think there's some crossover between those pathways. One of the things that I think is important to note is that when a student goes through the Firefighter 1 program, they take an exam, which is really hard. And even if they pass the exam, they would have to go into the Dayton Fire Department, take the whole course over, and take the test over, which is kind of discouraging for kids. The EMT route, though, is really the way to go. If a student takes the EMT course in the pathway and they pass the test, they can become immediately employable, either through the Dayton Fire Department or a private company, for a hospital or whatever. That's their foot in the door to the fire department. And at that point, if they want to stay on the EMT path as an employee, they can, or they can opt into firefighter pathway. So their kids are employable immediately after high school with an EMT certificate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Board Member
Thank you.
Reiner.
Ms. Dooley, I actually have a follow-up question that you may or may not know the answer to. What is it exactly, what can we do to reduce the barrier for the kids in the firefighter program so they don't have to go through the course again? Because that would be incredibly frustrating as a student to go through the program and have to go through it again. What is it exactly?
That's the rule at the fire department in the city of Dayton.
So maybe there is some further conversations
That's
we can
why
have with city leadership.
for a student, it feels redundant. So there's no incentive.
Order.
Sorry, what were you saying, Ms. Dooley?
For the city of Dayton, that's the process, that even if our kids succeed, pass, they have to do the course and the test over again.
Okay.
So it's just very frustrating for them.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Dooley, before you go, and I want you to have to come back up. So, you said this will be going on at Ponence. What all now will be the offering for students that have this interest at Belmont?
There is not one.
Okay.
Are students able to take the classes Like, if they have an interest in it, is there a way for us to work to allow them to shift over to Ponitz and not necessarily have to leave Belmont?
If there's room, I think my last check, there were like 5 seats left in that EMT pathway. So, I mean, certainly that's something that I can take my direction from Dr. Lawrence and from you all.
Okay, I had one more question for you. About how much time do you guys need to find out what the city's portion is of this contract? Like, could that be discovered tonight?
I don't know. Do you have that original contract, Ms. Kidd?
Okay, so I'm just gonna ask if we can just pull that one item to be voted on after I just get that information, but still to be voted on tonight. Does anybody have any objection to that? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, are there any other questions? Go ahead, Board Member Reiner.
Thank you. I have a question for our interim superintendent. Dr. Lawrence, I assume that the yellow highlighted City of Dayton item is new from last week. Is there anything that is not on this list of contracts that was on the list last week that we should be aware of?
Yes, there was a contract on the list last week for Mind Play. It was for almost $750,000, and I asked for it to be removed.
Okay, and that's the only thing that has changed, these 2 items?
That was the only 2 things that I asked to change.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
All right, are there any other questions? Go ahead.
Dr. Lawrence, with do we know or can we get a number of the students that are serviced by Thrive Therapeutics? And then also, if that number goes up, if there are some changes, if there are more students that need to be serviced, then would that not to exceed have to be raised, or would we have to come back and do a separate contract?
Ms. Coulter, can you answer that?
So the first question, how many students? I do not have that information.
Can you talk into the mic, please?
Yeah. So the first question, how many students? I do not have that information, but I can get that for you. And then what was your second part of your question?
So with that, and because just looking at the amount and saying, if we have more students that need services, would an increase of students fit under this amount, or would we have to increase that amount?
So the piece with this too is that they can bill Medicaid. So if I'm a Thrive counselor and I can bill Medicaid for $500 and the whole thing is $600, they actually only charge us $100. But it's hard to tell if we're going to need more or not. We have new enrollments every single day. A lot of our kids come to us with a lot of needs. And so whatever they need, it's our responsibility to get it. So I don't know if that's going to be enough or not. I can look to see historically if we've had to increase it in the past for you and get you that information.
That would be good, because that's
Okay.
my concern too, is understanding that we do have a lot of students with a lot of different needs and making sure that they're serviced with fidelity.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. If I get you 1 second, Board Member Sampson. If you all refresh your screens, you can see the contract now for the position for the City of Dayton shared position. Go ahead, Board Member Sampson.
Thank you, Madam President. Dr. Lawrence, with the adjustment for Mind Play, what is the thought or what will be the plan for the layers of intervention that the scholars were receiving through Mind Play? What is the idea for replacement, if any?
So the idea isn't necessarily to replace it. I've had extensive conversations with principals, teachers, folks in curriculum, and the idea is that we'll focus on Tier 2 and Tier 3 intensive instruction. We know that to be able to help us move kids and remove some of the computer support and just do more teaching and learning, kind of like back to the basics. And so I had that conversation today with all 17 elementary principals, and overwhelmingly, they were supportive that we need to remove some of these computer barriers and get back to some of the basics of teaching.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Oh,
I just have a follow-up question, because if we're going to be doing that, do we have enough teachers, a ratio of teacher and students to be able to do that?
So currently, we had a discussion today with the elementary principals as well. And we have a ratio of teachers to do that. We have a ratio of teachers to be able to reduce the classroom size for kindergarten. We are looking for some, on Friday, through a work session at the Principals Institute, some really creative ways to use some of those Title I teachers who are in those grades, in the lower grades, to be able to offer that Tier 2 and Tier 3 instruction.
Go ahead.
So are we getting rid of Success Maker also?
That was a conversation I had today with the 17 elementary principals, and there was overwhelming support for the removal of Success Maker as well. This philosophy behind placing kids on computers and allowing the computer to do the teaching, we're trying to remove ourselves from that. We've not had objectively high results that have propagated from that strategy. And so, yeah, that's the conversation we had today with the instructional leaders of the 17 buildings.
Question for you on that one. Is the data that came before MindPlay and Success Maker, how is that different than the data that is during it?
I will have to follow up and get back with you. Success Maker and MindPlay, they provide their own data. We have one source of norm reference data, and that's OST, and that has not been promising. Our performance index right now is 51.1.
So do you know what it was before?
I think it was 54, pre-pandemic, in the 50s, and so we've not moved out of the 50s.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Along those lines, but in a different vein, with this shift, along with just the need that we speak about, and with some of the vacancies we're seeing as well in some of these positions that we've asked some of these questions too. Dr. Lawrence, if you could go into not only the conversation you had about the MindPlay and things like that, but what were some of the things that came out from talking with the principals around some of the needs that their teachers see? How can we make sure that these teachers are set up for success? How can we make sure that these teachers stay, that they have the tools around them, that we make sure that they're brought in a way that allows them to thrive and continue to be here at Dayton Public Schools? Or was that part of the conversation as well?
It was absolutely part of the conversation. Let's do this in two parts. Ms. Maney, can you come up and talk about the vacancies and what's happened now that we've been able to move some of the Title I teachers into other vacancies, meaning filling vacancies of long-term subs with actual certified teachers?
Yes, so good evening. So in relation to the recent staffing changes we were talking about today.
Yes.
So we currently have 210 licensed teachers in district that are filling positions either within a double teaching classroom or another position that's not directly teaching students in a classroom. So it's a support position, but it's filled by a licensed teacher. Those 210, we are going to directly put back in our classrooms in grades 1 through 3 with one teacher per classroom without the double teaching model that we've been implementing so far. We currently have, for DEA positions only, now this includes teachers and a couple nurses, but approximately 180 vacancies. The estimation right now in rough numbers, without looking at each individual and their licensure and what it allows them to fill, but those first, second, and third grade classrooms, there's approximately 100 of those. So that will take 100 of the 210 that are displaced teachers, and then the remaining 110 teachers that are licensed, we are attempting to fill in the 183 teacher vacancies we have with their current licensure. So hopefully that will be a reduction in vacancy, and I can have more very specific, individualized, accurate data when we get to the details with the HR team of identifying the staff member, the license they hold, and what it allows them to fill within our district.
So the idea was to get licensed teachers in front of all these children in each classroom, and then to use some of those additional teachers to reduce classroom size in kindergarten where kids are coming not prepared from years of being out of school, COVID-19, and just the structure of education here in America itself. And so these ideas, they're not the framework for them are something I talk about with the academic team, but I always run them by what we call our instructional leaders, the principals, the people who actually deal with the application of this information and how it plays out in buildings. And so, Board Member Smith, today's meeting also was, hey, we appreciate the support and the ability to be flexible and run our buildings in a site-based manner instead of one prescription for everyone.
Question, I have a couple, because I heard a couple things. So if I'm hearing you correctly, we are removing double teaching, and we are taking these individuals and putting them somewhere else. Although these people have a contract and the expectation to be in there, and there may have been people who selected us for, especially at the elementary level, based on this model. Was this ever brought to the board?
This
Or is this
a
the
new
first
initiative.
hearing of it?
This is a new initiative that's taken place this week for change.
Okay. And on that one, has this gone to our legal department as well? Because again, these people are in contracts.
So this would follow what contractually in the bargaining unit agreement would be a displacement. And so these teachers will have the opportunity to select, at this time of year, to select for themselves from the vacancies that they are eligible for based on their licensure.
And what if they don't? What if they don't want to leave a double teaching model?
Then that is the decision of our superintendent, whether we have the double teaching model or the instructional model we use.
We provided some flexibility, or a lot of flexibility, with the principals today to have that conversation. We don't know all those answers to that. And as it relates to the programmatic changes, we can bring all programmatic changes to the board if you like.
This one seems, I mean, go ahead. It looks like you guys have some thoughts down there. Go ahead. All right.
Well, I mean, I'm a little bit shocked that we're getting rid of double teaching model 10 days before school starts. It was working, so I'm also surprised because this is the first that we hear about it.
We had a minus 6.2% drop in third grade reading. I wouldn't consider that working. In addition, I have to go back and look to see if I mentioned it in my Sunday memo to the board. I'll check.
Something down there? Anything else?
I will echo some of the concerns that have been raised here today. I'm concerned because, meeting the benchmark for third grade reading guarantee is the most crucial benchmark as an indicator for success in children's academic lives. And we had really done a good job through the double teaching model, not only relieving these teachers of a great deal of the incredibly hard work that they have, but cutting the student-teacher ratio in half. And now we're going to be putting the ratio back to those levels and increasing the burdens on teachers that really need to make sure that they have all of the tools and ability to give these kids the best chance to succeed before third grade, before they hit their third grade reading guarantee. That really concerns me. I don't believe that it was in the email summary that you sent out earlier, and it does. I'm caught aback too to hear about this today. This was, I think this is a big change that shouldn't happen 10 days before school starts. I understand the need for change. It's very concerning for me.
As it relates to the discussion about prior data and the success, we'd like to present on, have an academic team that looks at data too. We'd like to present the findings that we have, not just the current OST data that doesn't show an increase, but other data. And I think that, I think there's a space for us to present if you wouldn't mind at some point in the future.
I mean,
In the near
respectfully,
future.
I think this is an opportunity for you to say, I think 10 days is not enough time to dig into the data and make this change. Let's look at it one more year, look at the data, do the survey, really dig deep into it another year, and maybe have this conversation in a few months.
If I could just request the data before the double teaching model and the data during the 2 years of it, please.
The academic data?
Yes.
Yeah, I will pass that information on.
Are there any other questions? Go ahead.
Dr. Lawrence, what has been the consensus or opinions given to you from the principals about the double teaching model?
Overwhelmingly, they wanted to cease and desist.
Yeah.
Can I follow up, ma'am? And have you or anyone in that circle spoken to the teachers who have been involved and gotten some of their feedback on it?
The principals have spoken to the teachers, and informally I had passing conversations. It was difficult to find teachers who supported. They supported the idea of co-teaching, not double teaching. So co-teaching means that you actually are teaching the same subject in the same room with one teacher as a primary and the other serves as the secondary for Tier 2 and Tier 3 instruction. Same subject, same conversation in the room. The double teaching is two different subjects with two different teachers talking at the same time, with the kids with the partition between them, and young children with a lot of stimuli going on, with teachers, adults talking back and forth, kids talking back and forth. And so teachers thought, hey, relieving class size is great, but not teaching the same subject is the pushback that I heard.
Appreciate you. That's it, Madam President.
How are we going to communicate, or how have we, it sounds like you guys have started working on this, how is this being communicated to parents who would be impacted because their children are in the 1st to 3rd grade?
So the Human Resources team has started the first step in the process. We've notified the Teachers Union president, who is on board as of today. And so we're identifying which staff members are impacted. And as far as communication to families and parents, I would assume that from the building level principal, there will be some sort of communication. We are right now compiling the staff members that are involved, and then we're going to work through the process, which involves a sorting by seniority date to ensure that we go by contractual agreement, that teachers get to select their teaching classroom of choice.
Okay. Does anyone have still questions on this? Okay, go ahead.
Did we talk to our union leadership about this? And were they able to talk to their union members and get information and talk about, I mean, I'm hoping that this is not the first that teachers are hearing about it right now. Have those conversations happened? I very much value our union leadership and the collaboration that we have with them.
I've spoken with Neil Mahoney about this. He's currently vacationing in South Carolina with his family. We spoke before he left, and he himself is in favor of it because most of his members are.
I just would like to strongly recommend that we put this in the back burner and we discuss it in the future.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions? Go ahead.
Thank you. I spent a decent amount of time in the buildings last year observing some of the education that I saw going on. And I think that a lot of our teachers were doing great work, or as good as they could, with the double teaching model. But in my observation, I think they were making it work, but not necessarily something that was real comfortable. That was just an observation. Personally, I don't think it's a method that seems efficient or effective in many ways. Alone, just the constant interruption and schedule. So, and that's a personal opinion, I understand, but I am in support of changing that, to use that talent that we have in those double teaching models to fill our classrooms with certified teachers. I think that's really, really important. As far as the mind play piece goes, I observed also there's a lot of our kids have technology all the time, and I agree with using it to learn in a way, but to teach with technology, I think there's a gap there. To put a piece of paper and a computer in front of a young child and have them, that's the way we're teaching them. I think there are much more effective ways of teaching. And essentially that's what mind play is. It's independent, it's like, so I am in support of, change is hard. I understand that, and change is hard on an organization, and communication should certainly be available for all of us, and I understand that, but I do believe now's the time to make the change. I think that we're starting a new school year, we have a new interim superintendent, and I think that we should allow the work to be done in a way that brings about the change that's needed in the district. So I strongly support the change, so thank you for hearing me in that. Appreciate you.
Hey, thanks, Ms. Maney. Dr. Williams, could you come up for a moment? Hey, from a curriculum standpoint, could you give some feedback on the double teaching?
Absolutely, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm a researcher, I'm a curriculum person. I taught for 20-some years. I've taught third grade through college. I've taught private schools, public schools, so I've looked at curriculum in many realms. I'm also a researcher. I research everything. There is no research behind the double teaching model, none at all. As far as effectiveness, if you look at the past 5-6 years, as far as growth in the district, I haven't seen that at all. And it's very sad. Research-based, if you're looking at curriculum, I mean, I could go on forever. Everyone knows that. I could go back 100 so years to John Dewey. We could talk about project-based learning because that was the method that really worked. We could talk about the 50s and 60s and how things altered, how there was a fight over a factory model of education and curriculum and a fight over project-based learning. Because the factory model is to create workers. That is the whole realm. It's not to create thinkers. Project-based learning is to create problem solvers and thinkers and kids that can go out into the future and into the world and discover and change things like they're doing now. Our educational system, the way it's been working the past forever, doesn't work effectively for the kids today. If you're looking at kids today and you're talking about kids on screens, you're talking about kids interacting, you're talking about kids getting bits of knowledge instantly, they're on YouTube and that's old for them. I mean, they're on all of these other methods. So if you're looking at research today and what can effectively help kids, you're talking project-based learning in STEM. You're talking kids being interactive and working with the different disciplines. You're talking about disciplines not being separated by math, social studies, science. We don't separate things. Where in the world in a regular job are you going to separate these different topics? It's not going to happen. You need to have that experience and understanding from the beginning, because I can guarantee that elementary kids can learn STEM, they can learn high literacy, they can learn Dr. Tatum's multidimensional reading model, they can learn all of these elements because we've seen it. For the past 2 years, Sharon Goins and I have worked with the Liddy program, which we started the summer before last. Their progress, their development, their excitement, if you want kids to want to come to school and be a part of it, and we need to build that culture and community desperately, you're not going to do it by sitting them down in front of a computer or sitting them down in a classroom where two people are talking at the same time, where most of us could not function. I was in many, many, many classrooms and buildings this year, and that is not a method I could function in. And with a lack of research supporting that, I don't consider that a successful method. Everything that should be produced in schools that I would bring to you focuses on research and knowledge. And our research is there that we need to move forward. We've known that for over 100 years. We need to move on. STEM came out in the 60s with NASA, all of that. That's the wave of the future. Engineering, design, computers, IT, IA. So if we're really going to turn things around, that's really going to create an amazing opportunity here. Because it astounds me that we've known this forever, and how many schools are actually doing STEM? Project-based learning? Not many, because it is a little bit more difficult. It's giving up some of that control in the classroom, that I am not the sage on the stage, you're not sitting there in little chairs and I'm teaching you. It's interactive, it's hands-on, it's the way the world works. And if we can change and really pivot to that and really embrace that, it's going to be amazing. And if you want to talk about teachers and the dual teaching, no. It's not working successfully for them as well.
If I could just make a request that's nothing we're voting on right now. If we could table this conversation till there's actually something for it, because that's currently not an agenda item at the moment. But you had one more thing, so go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't disagree with you. I think project-based learning is fantastic. That's not the discussion that we're having right now. And, you know, I would just say, I understand the difficulty that we had when we were implementing the double teaching model, but all of my kids went through essentially double teaching in elementary school, and they thrived in it in the Montessori classrooms, which is the same thing. And it wasn't two teachers talking at the same time. There are ways if we are giving the teachers support to do it. My concern is that we have so much ground to make up for these kids before they make the third grade reading guarantee. This was an extra support for them, making sure that they meet all those benchmarks. It can be very successful, and I just feel like it is too soon and it's too fast a change to pivot on the 18th, which is today's the day I'm hearing about it. So thank you so much for your perspective. I appreciate it. We can have that conversation later.
And Montessori
I know
is-
that several of us board members had kids in basically a double teaching classroom that worked for their kids. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So if we could, again, not voting on anything dealing with double teachers right now. Does anybody else have something on the agenda items?
I guess the only concern I have right now, just before we table this, is there's a lot of movement in HR going on right now, and I think we should have a discussion
Yeah, I
on
mean,
that eventually.
As a
So-
board, we have to
Right.
set our objectives for the interim superintendent and in the direction on that part. It's first, second time we've met since this happened. But again, on the current agenda items, I have one question for you on the contract that was on here. There are two numbers in here where one is 50,000 annually and the second one is 100,000 annually. So is it either of those numbers, or is it 150,000, or is it 100,000? If you go back to your screen and look on the contract. The other one. Back to the main one. Refresh. Go ahead, Board Member Sampson.
So I think with this agreement that's posted, it's for a multiple year. It's like 50,000 each year for the 23-24 school year, and then 24-25. I think that's where the 100,000 came from.
Okay. Sure, fine. All right, are there any other questions? I will say I no longer need to pull the item to be voted on separately since I have the contract now, so. All right, seeing no other questions, Madam Treasurer, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wiegany,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
All right, your next recommendation?
I recommend approval of the following resolution to author,
Is your mic on?
I recommend the approval of the following resolution of the Board of Education to authorize incentive payment to certain employees.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any questions? It moved properly second. Are there any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wiegany,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
All right, does that conclude your recommendations?
No, I recommend the approval of the following resolution, cloud extension letter 3F.
Oh, sorry. All right, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Moved and properly second. Are there any questions?
I mean, if we're cutting back on computers, do we need to consider?
Well, this is the cloud service of it, not the actual computer agreement.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wiegany,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Thank you. Does that conclude your recommendation?
President Goodwin, that concludes my recommendations.
All right, Madam Treasurer, your first recommendation.
I recommend the approval of temporary certificate of estimated as reviewed last week.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. Are there any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wiegany,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
All right, your next recommendation.
I recommend the approval of the fiscal year 2024 temporary appropriation as reviewed last week.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and properly second. Are there any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wiegany,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
All right, your next recommendation?
I recommend the approval of temporary advance as reviewed last week.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wiegany,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
No.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
6 yes, 1 no.
Your next recommendation?
I recommend the approval of the monthly financials for June 30th, 2023, as reviewed by the Finance Committee last Thursday.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. Are there any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wiegany,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Your next recommendation?
I recommend the approval of the official minutes for June 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and properly second. Are there any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wiegany,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Your next recommendation?
I recommend the approval of the purchase requisitions.
Is there a motion?
So
Madam-
moved.
I'd like to vote on some separately.
Okay, but I have to do the motions first.
The
and then
purchase rec,
And
okay.
then we'll pull them off. So it's moved. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second. Okay, can I pull a couple items separately to be voted on? Go ahead, Board Member Lacy.
Clark Schaefer Hackett. My family has, I have a brother that's a retired partner.
Okay. is
And Council of Great City Schools.
it- Okay. Thank you. There any? This is you.
I'd like to have Power School pulled based on our business and technology meeting today.
That is fine. Are there any questions or anything? Go ahead, Board Member Reiner.
Board Member Sampson had his hand first. He can
Oh,
go ahead.
Board Member Sampson.
Thank you, Board Member Reiner. Thank you, Madam President. Dr. Lawrence, can you tell me, based on your meeting today, what is the rationale for pulling Power School?
Power School is part of a network of information technology systems and softwares that have been built up over the last 20 years that have been piled on top of the other that don't communicate with each other. What happens is we buy one IT tool after another and then pile it onto the other one. And so what we talked about in the committee today was all of these tools that we have, pages and pages and pages of them, and none of them, they don't talk to each other and they're not connected. And so what we want to do is spend some really critical time studying Beaver Creek. They seem to have one system that speaks to all systems. I can check back with Northmont, but I can get you the data. I mean, it's incredible the number of tools that we have that we don't use and that don't talk to each other.
If I could add on to that one. We should be almost done with the migration of final forms for the enrollment piece, which this looks like a duplicate if we're paying for two softwares to do the same thing. I know that we started this I believe, in February. I don't know if anyone here knows where we are in that process for that, but if we could find that out too, because I know the final forms is supposed to also be replacing some of the functions that are listed on here. Go ahead, Board Member Reiner. Board Member Reiner? Yeah.
I believe Board Member
I'm
Sampson
sorry.
is still going.
Thank you. I just have one more question. Dr. Lawrence, with the pulling of Power School, will it interrupt any organizational flow, district flow, without this programming in place at the beginning of the school year?
According to information technology, no. We have other tools.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
All right. Go ahead now, Board Member Reiner, sorry.
Thank you, Madam President. The first question I have is for our interim superintendent. Is there anything different from this list besides the conversations that we've already had about Power School and having Council of Great City Schools? Is there anything that is an additional or not on here that was here last week that we should be aware of?
I've made no request.
Okay. My second question, if I could actually, I was going to ask a question about talk about the Council of Great City Schools. Board Member Lacey, can I ask why you are pulling that to vote separately?
I don't know that I've heard anything from Council of Great City Schools come to the board, but if you can enlighten me, that'd be fine.
Okay. It's one of the organizations that we've been part of for as long as I've been a board member. I went to one of the
And as long as I've been a board member.
Right. The question that I had actually for the treasurer at this point is, could we look at the member organizations that we are a part of? NSBA, actually we're not, that's through OSBA and we're not part of NSBA, but COSBA and CUBE and all the other organizations we're a part of. Can we make sure that we're up to date on the annual payments for those organizations, please, and get a report and an email to board members about that?
Yes, we are.
Okay, can we double check on that, please?
I will.
Thank you, Madam President.
Okay, I will say, Mr. Lacey, on the Council of Great City Schools, because I went to the conference, I think in February or March, I did send you all out a report of things from there. One of the advantages of us being in we're actually grandfathered into this organization right now because our size, we have decreased based on the thresholds that you need to be in there. It does provide a lot of really good resources if you go through the technical material. Right now, I think the biggest part of it is about ESSER and how we move off of ESSER and things coming next that were really the highlight of the material I sent out to individuals on that one. I do have one question for you, Dr. Lawrence. Last week I asked for these items that are over the $50,000 thresholds if they have actually gone through our procurement process, and I have not received any information that indicates that they have. So are these valid? Like, did these follow our internal processes for public bid for those items?
Based on sole source and single source, yes, these followed our internal processes and the most recent policy changes, and I will follow up with purchasing and procurement first thing in the morning and make sure they follow up and send you that line by line.
All right, Board Member Sampson.
Thank you, Madam President. My question I forgot to ask last week was the Ohio BCI. I know that Board Member Reiner was a few months ago talked about possibly doing background checks and things for volunteers. Does this open PO include that initiative or thought, or is it strictly for potential new hires and staff?
It is for volunteers, and I'll have to get with Chief Wright to see if there are any additional addendums for staff. And while I have the mic, I'd like to make a brief comment about, I think the agenda, the board memo that I sent on Sunday night, I attached central office transformation and how you change central office. That actually comes from the Wallace Foundation. So we use the Wallace Foundation's research for a lot of our work.
Thank you, Madam President.
Go ahead, Vice President Smith.
First off, Superintendent Lawrence, could you talk about what are we doing with the TeachTown software? What are some of the things that we plan to help our staff with as far as this software? What are some of the plans to kind of integrate this in a way that, like I asked on the other thing, helps our teachers use tools in a successful way?
I really support this software, and I'm going to ask Ms. Coulter to come up and talk about it.
So I actually reached out to the Council of Greater City Schools to find out what they use with their low-incident classrooms. And so those are our students with very severe disabilities, and they usually take the alternative assessment. And so this curriculum is going to change the curriculum that they currently are using, which is unique. And so with TeachTown, it's an amazing program, it's an amazing software. There are materials, the total amount of $679,000. It includes the software, it includes all the materials, and it includes a very in-depth training package for the teachers. And so how they're going to roll that out this year is it's kind of going to go to teachers in 3 parts, all of our 3 PD days, and in between those PD days, there's going to be in-person coaching in their classrooms so that they can have questions answered, do some modeling lesson for them, so TeachTown's going to come in and do that. There are sessions lined up for principals to support them and any questions they have. And then there's also the in-between. So in between PD days, in-person coaching, there's also virtual for them to answer any questions that they could have.
Quick follow-up. With that, are there plans to allow the paraprofessionals to also join in that training as well?
Yes,
they will be playing a big part in these classrooms?
Yes, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. We did just talk about that. Yes, we talked about on the PD days having the paras join the teachers as well so that they can learn the software and during small groups and assist kids whenever they can.
Okay, and then lastly, in this process, how have any of the teachers and paras been involved up until now with TeachTown and then getting them transitioned from Unique? Have there been any conversations around that whole process?
Yes, not with paras, but with teachers. We did this at the end of the school year. We had demo lessons or demo multiple times during the school time. We did it during the tiered like bell so that everybody would have an opportunity. And it was open to all of the teachers. We opened some for principals as well, just to give us feedback. At the end, they were TeachTown was there to answer their questions, and all of the feedback that we had received was, this is going to really help us. Unique, just in our opinion of Unique, just had some academics, and TeachTown has transition, they have social emotional learning, and there's 3 tiers so that the teachers can really, when a student's ready, maybe not ready for gen ed curriculum, but ready for more, they can use the next tier with them. And so all of our feedback so far has been really good.
Appreciate that information. I don't have anything else.
Are there any other questions? All right, seeing none, may we have a vote excluding the 2 items that Board Member Lacy pulled?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wiegany,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
All right, may we have a vote on the 2 items pulled?
Oh, we're not discussing them?
Oh, go ahead. I thought you already talked about it.
Are we?
You said you was
Huh?
your brother's company. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, no, on Council of Great City Schools, if we were not grandfathered in, how
We are grandfathered in. We can't get
if we were not grandfathered in, how many members, how many students would we need to have?
like 40,000?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is an organization of 40,000 or more kids. Okay, you're saying they're helping us with ESSERs. Now every district in the country gets ESSERs.
No,
They're helping us with information about ESSERs.
they give you a lot of information on
They give us
various
information
topics.
about ESSERs. Okay, I just think it's an organization that's built for 40,000 plus. So what's the average size of the district in the Council of Great City Schools, I wonder?
So, Board, if I may, so if I recall correctly, the last time I attended one of the conferences, it was over 76 of the highest population urban school districts in the country. And it was really helpful for me to get information about a lot of the same things that we deal with. Actually, interestingly enough, I attended a bunch of sessions about ELL services And this was prior to the international school being proposed. So it gave me a better foundation for understanding some of the needs for the international school. I think we have a lot of organizations that we're a part of that have been very helpful for me personally. This is actually something I wanted to discuss later on the agenda. I found the information from that to be very, very helpful. There is a lot of ESSER information, but a lot of the things that the urban school districts across the country are dealing with, we are so siloed in a lot of ways. I don't think we communicate enough with the things that we're doing in our district that are similar to other districts. There's a lot of research that I've done and networking that I've done with people across the country in different districts that are in some ways very different from ours, but in more ways we are more similar. It's been incredibly helpful for me. So that's just my personal context. So.
And I'm sure our district does have a lot in common with New York and LA and Chicago. But this organization, they're going to be, they're going to bat for bigger districts. That's where they're going. That's who they're going to bat for. So I think we can get information from organizations that serve smaller districts, and that's basically why I would vote no on this. That's all.
Any other questions, comments?
And you said we were going to vote on.
You want to vote on separately?
I would appreciate that, because I was planning on abstaining from the Clark Schaefer Hackett.
Okay, let's do the first one.
Because I'm not opposed to
The
Clark Schaefer and Hackett's.
We'll do the Clark one first, and then the Greater Council of City Schools second.
Okay.
I didn't say it right, but you knew what I meant.
So, who moved it?
It's the same, this is just the same motion, we just split up the vote.
Okay. Shall I call? Okay. President Goodwin?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Ms. Wiegany?
Yes.
Dr. Pickett?
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt?
Yes.
Mr. Lacy?
Abstain.
6 yeses, 1 abstain.
All right, and now on the last item, the Greater,
Council of Great Cities.
yes, that one. Appreciate you.
President Goodwin?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Ms. Wiegany?
Yes.
Dr. Pickett?
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt?
Yes.
Mr. Lacy?
No.
6 yeses, 1 no.
All right, your next recommendation?
I recommend the approval of the following then and now as I reviewed last week.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second. I don't think people pay attention. All right, any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Ms. Wiegany?
Yes.
Dr. Pickett?
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt?
Yes.
Mr. Lacy?
Yes.
7 yeses.
Thank you. Does that conclude your recommendations?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, I recommend the approval of the following board member expenses and reimbursements.
So moved.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Move to second. Are any questions? Go ahead, Board Member Reiner.
I'm just curious, which of the board members is attending the NSBA Cube annual conference?
There you go, Board Member Sampson.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Ms. Wiegany?
Yes.
Dr. Pickett?
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt?
Yes.
Mr. Lacy?
Yes.
7 yeses.
All right, thank you. We're on to closing comments from board members. Board Member Sampson.
I don't have any comments. Thank you, Madam President.
All right, Board Member Witt Gagne.
That was quick. I wasn't prepared, but okay. Anyway, thank you to everybody who came out. Yeah, everybody laugh a little bit now. Thank you to everybody who came out this evening. I'm grateful that everybody is riding along with this, our new superintendent, and I know there are a lot of changes, and like I said, change is hard, and I know that means that you're all walking with us together with this change, and I appreciate your consideration in doing that. I think it's going to be a great year at Dayton Public Schools, and I really look forward to working with everybody. So yeah, hats off to a great school year. Lots of great stuff going on around Welcome Stadium. Plans underway, openings, scheduled tours. August 16th, mark on your calendar, is officially opening game day. It's a big day. But it's really a wonderful facility that I think the whole community is going to enjoy. So I continue to love my work there and really am inspired by the work I get to do, and that means I'm inspired by all of you. So thank you.
Thank you. Other side, Board Member Reiner.
Thank you. I actually have quite a bit to talk about. There's been a lot going on in the State House that I have to update people with, and I have a lot of other items to discuss. The first and the biggest thing that I just want to say is my apologies for not being here last week. I had been scheduled to go to a conference, and when we got the news that the previous superintendent had retired, or announced her resignation, apologies. I wasn't sure what was going to be happening at the meeting last week, and I was willing to cancel my conference. At that point, we were not aware that there was going to be a vote, and so I decided to go ahead with my conference. I would have liked to have been a part of that. So my apologies to the public for not being here and taking part in that very important part of my job. The biennial budget bill was signed on the morning of July 4th. The differences between the House and Senate version were hammered out, and my apologies to the board. I did not write this up because I wasn't sure that Board Docs was going to be up and running, and so I'm going to give this verbally instead of having a written report. The biggest thing is that the EdChoice voucher expansion happened. This is devastating to public education in Ohio. It's a cost of $825 million more in addition to what is already being spent on vouchers, with no additional assessment measures, report cards, financial reporting, or auditing stipulations that are attached to the expansion. There is more money being attached per child in the voucher system than there is in the public education system. It is a travesty. I think it was an astoundingly bad decision on the State House's part. The State Board of Education was stripped of all of its regulatory powers and moved to the governor's cabinet. The most concerning thing, which is not part of the biennial bill, but I wanted to mention it, is the Senate President, President Huffman, expressed some verbal support for, since we are expanding the EdChoice voucher program, there are a lot of areas in the state of Ohio that do not have non-public schools. And so the Senate President proposed that we use state money to build non-public schools in Ohio so students can use those vouchers. It is a dereliction of their stewardship. We will be using public tax dollars toward private entities that do not have the same regulatory system, do not have the same oversight, do not have to publish their financial data, do not have to publish their graduation rates. It is just an astoundingly bad decision and a misuse of public tax dollars. There is a little bit of good news in the biennial budget bill. The base cost inputs have been updated to 2022 numbers. We were behind by a couple of years, and so all the calculations, and I'm sure the treasurer can echo my relief that the base cost inputs for all the calculations have been updated. We need to make sure that we update those regularly, though. This is good news for this year, but in a couple of years we're going to be in the same boat. There is funding for a comprehensive study for economically disadvantaged students in the bill, which is good. I would also put a caveat on that. I hope we will be taking those recommendations from that study and implementing them within our public education system. There's an amendment to the third grade reading guarantee. It will permit promotion for students who do not pass to the fourth grade, as long as there is a process for parents and administrators and teachers to have a conversation about where their student is, and as long as they go through that process, students can be promoted to the fourth grade. There's a lot of controversy about that idea, but it is more beneficial for students to be promoted along with their peers than to be held back. It's more detrimental for students to be held back, so I think that's a good thing. The bill also requires the Ohio Department of Education to provide reimbursements for lunch and breakfast fees for all reduced price meals. There is an increase to the teacher base salary, which is great. The bad news on that was the minimum teacher base salary was $30,000, and now it's $35,000 a year. That is not a lot. Our teachers deserve so much more than that. Even the initial proposal, which is $40,000 a year, is, I don't think, enough for our teachers. I would love to see the state really value its teachers and put a lot more money behind that, and to increase that base pay. The bill requires districts to provide free period products to all menstruating students from grades 6 to 12, which is fantastic. This was actually something that I wanted to talk to our interim superintendent about. It is very important that people who have periods are able to have access products that they need. Not everybody has those. This can be detrimental to people who have periods. If they do not have access to period products, they can't make it to school. This is one of the barriers to education that is a fairly easy fix that we can address, and I'm really grateful that across the state of Ohio, period products will be available. The science of reading is implemented. Dr. Lawrence and I have not yet talked about that, but I know Dr. Lawley and I have. There is a pretty broad consensus that science of reading is a better approach for teaching kids how to read, and thankfully Dayton has been doing that for a number of years already. One thing, so those are all my updates about the biennial budget bill. There are a couple other bills that have been introduced, and they're still in the process of going through the legislative process. One thing that I've been watching, a bill that I've been watching that hasn't quite gone anywhere, is House Bill 38. I would like to urge our legislators to take another look at that and pass it through committee. House Bill 38 is sponsored by our local representative Blackshear and Minority Leader Jessica Miranda, and it designates that each student has 3 mental health days to take off during the school year, in addition to their other excused absences. I think that is a very good thing. Minority Leader Russo, not Minority Leader Miranda. Anyway, I fully support House Bill 38. I think it's a good bill for students, so I hope to see that get a little bit more traction. Some updates from OSBA. There's the OSBA Capital Conference, November 12th through 14th. I hope to see other board members there. That's always a good opportunity for us to gather with other board members and superintendents and treasurers across the state. The Southwest Region Executive Committee meeting is August 8th. That is a committee through the OSBA that I am a part of. I'm proud to serve in that. The problem with that meeting is it also occurs as the same night as the review meeting. So I'm feeling a little bit conflicted. I've missed a couple meetings because of work conferences and vacation, and I want to make every effort to make it to board meetings. And then there is a budget analysis and discussion seminar on August 1st that I will be attending virtually to get a better hold on the state budget bill. I wanted to give a report for the conference that I just attended, which is the California Association of Black School Educators. Fantastic conference. This is the 3rd year that it's been going, and I was invited to attend and was really, really I was really moved by some of the things that I heard and that I learned at that conference. There were a couple of educators, mostly women, because I think that we have a lot of really great female leaders in the educational space. This was not just a conference for educators in California. There were a lot of old friends that I know from across the country, and I met a lot of new friends, a lot of folks from Portland, Chicago, the Illinois area, New Jersey, Maryland. It was really good to connect with those folks and hear about some of the initiatives they're doing. We really dug deep into the subject of this conference was implicit bias and the systematic de-education of Black girls. And I actually brought this, if anybody's interested in looking at it. There were some really, really great sessions about the barriers that are specifically in front of Black girls and you know, this is one of the things that leads me to trumpet. I'm so glad that we have period products for our students. We really need to make sure that we are digging into the way that we educate. I think it's a good thing to have these discussions, really good discussions about not just systemic racism, but about colorism within different communities and how that affects people. There was a great session by Naisha DeWitt about how race intersects with gender in terms of attendance, which I've already mentioned. Virginia McCotter-Jacobs, who's the executive director and CEO of NSBA, gave a really great speech. I would love to talk with board members more about that later. I thought it was a really, really fantastic use of my time, and I'm really grateful that I was able to do it. I wanted to mention that I spoke with some people from the Skilled Trades Union. There was a camp, a summer camp for DPS students, a carpenter camp. And Senator Sherrod Brown came out and visited the students. It was a really great opportunity for DPS students to get exposed to the carpentry trade. I forwarded some of the pictures that were given to me to Alex, and hopefully if we're able, if all the waivers have been signed, we can put those up on the website. I would like to express my gratitude for having the volunteer background checks be paid for by DPS. I think it's really important to make sure that we're doing everything we can to encourage volunteers, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles who want to volunteer in their family member's school, that they can do so without having the barrier of background checks in front of them. I do have a couple other questions. I wanted to quickly, before I throw just a couple questions at Dr. Lawrence. I wanted to talk a little bit more about, you know, I think it's good that we send, you know, we prioritize sending one board member to a conference. I've met many boards who have almost their entire board goes to a conference. They're very careful to avoid any violations of the Sunshine Law. But the way that I see boards come together and listen to conferences, I try to give a thorough report when I get back, but I think, you know, we are not educators, and being exposed to a lot of the sessions and the breakout groups and the conversations that happen at conferences, I would love to have a conversation about having more than one board member go to conferences so that we can digest this information together and bounce it off each other. I think that'd be really beneficial. So I would love to have that question. And then I would just like to ask Dr. Lawrence, for parents' information coming up, we are less than a month away from school. Do we have bus schedules yet? Do we have start times? Where can parents find that information?
The information should be on the website, and yes, we have bus schedules and start times. Actually, Dr. Lally sent it before she left.
Okay, thank you. And I believe that's all I have. If I have more, I'll be sending emails out or calling board members. It was a good conference, and I'm really grateful for that. Are there any questions that board members have for me about that? Okay. My apologies for not having the written legislative report, but I'll have that next month. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Dr. Pickett.
Thank you, Madam President. The ESL committee did not meet last month, and I don't have anything to report at this time. Thank you. Okay.
Board Member Lacey.
The Finance Committee met last Thursday and found everything to be in good order. I just had a couple more questions in that discussion of education that I thought was going so well. And I understand that we had to vote and get on with what we were doing. I wanted to ask, and this, I'm not exactly sure, I wanted to ask, when our students take the OST exam, do they take that exam by computer, or do they take it on paper? I'm getting a head shaken yes for a computer. Okay, so they do that so they take math and language arts and science and history on a computer. So, and then in the working world, if you're going to do math or language arts type of work, I'm not going to ask the question, but I do know as a CPA, you're going to do that on a computer. And then I understand there's no research on the double teaching model since we pretty much invented it, but is there research on student-teacher ratios and having I'll say this wrong, a lower student-to-teacher ratio? Is there any research that says that's beneficial?
There is a great deal of research on student-teacher ratio, and I would say the lower the classroom size, the more efficient it can be. As long as there's a certain number of group and students in the classroom, one student wouldn't necessarily be efficient because they need that group work to be able to collaborate as well. So yes, there is, and it does support that. Do you want me to discuss that in relation to the double teaching model?
That's okay.
Okay.
We don't need to go with that. Thank you. And that's all I have.
All right. Vice President Smith. Actually, I was going to go Madam Treasurer. You want to go? Madam Treasurer.
We reconciled and closed the financial statements of the district as of June 30th, 2023, successfully, with a positive financial outlook of the district. It was very good look. We reopened the financial system for 2024, and it is working perfectly. The biennial budget was approved. It's a good news for DPS. We will receive $6 million more than what we received last year for fiscal year 2024. For fiscal year 2025, we will receive $1 million only. That's it.
Thank you. Vice President Smith.
Thank you. Thank you all. First, I want to say happy heavenly birthday to my late mother. She's a Roth graduate. So I like to always shout her out when I can. I also see Ms. Spurlock in the back of the room, and she got to meet my mother quite well during my days of being a student in Ms. Spurlock's room. One of the things my mom was great at was popping up. If you've been in any of the old DPS buildings, you know they had that window right at the door, and my mother was a short lady, but I would see her little bun and her eyebrows, and Ms. Spurlock wouldn't have any more words out of me that day. So just want to put that out there. I do want to thank everybody who went out to the athletic camps that it went on. I want to thank our athletic staff that helped put those together. I really appreciate those offerings and helping our students. I want to lift up the Liddy camp that was already spoken of. I must say I was thoroughly impressed. I got to talk to students that came up to my waist that could tell me what DNA was and broke down everything about it. And the best part about it was they had these, I thought they were sock puppets filled with rice. And I thought it was so cute that this child was showing me this puppet, and then they pushed a button and spoke to the puppet, and I realized the puppet was really a robot that spoke back to it. And this small child broke down how they had microprocessors and microphones, and they really, I mean, the robot buzzed and vibrated around. And so I really want to thank everybody that had to do with that. To see students that young be so excited about science and technology and really showing the creativity. and you could see what comes out in their brains when they're able to be pushed. And I think one of the things that really stood out to me is I asked some students, because I went around and they were so proud to say what school they went to. And one student said, I asked my mom, could I not go back to school next year and just do Liddy Camp all year? And so just seeing that, and I know we talk about those kind of things, just seeing that that does something for our children. So I really appreciate everybody who played a part in that as well. We did have an athletic advisory council meeting this past week. I want to thank all of our principals, and I want to note the new principals that we have and new administrators. We're so proud to see them in the room and participating. It was a great thing. Also, if you go online, you can check our Hall of Fame nomination portal is open. I want to give a big, huge shout out to our PIO team. They are very, very, very thorough and efficient and move on it. It's a great page up. It can really show you how to do those things. And I've just seen some great conversations with people from different eras of this community. And I feel great because older people in our community come up and tell me about, classmates I had in the 2010s, and I don't want to tell them I was out of school for 10 years by then. So I'm so grateful that they think I'm young, but then the younger kids think I came out in the 90s and 80s, so it's a trade-off. Lastly, I want to wish Dr. Lally well in her future endeavors. And I also want to say congratulations to Superintendent Lawrence and how grateful I am to be able to work with him at this moment. And I want to lift up one of the things that we don't talk about a lot in this area or in education is that when I thought about it, there aren't superintendents that are in these seats that come from this area. And when we talk about what you can do in your life, we always say you cannot be it unless you see it. And to understand that in this role right now is somebody who actually sat in the seats that our students sit in now. That is something that I can't kind of just overlook. I really thought back in my head of the superintendents I had when I was in Dayton Public Schools. They weren't from Dayton. So people would have to come in, learn the community, and then they would leave the community. And then they would come in and somebody else, and then they would leave the community. And a lot of them, to be honest, weren't even from Ohio. So to think of that, I really wanted to lift that up, and I look forward to working with you, sir, and I look forward to this school year. We are closing in. It will be here soon. Please talk to your students, like Ms. Winfrey said, that will be on the buses about bus etiquette. It is so very important that our children are safe on the bus, and that starts our day. I want to say thank you to all of our staff because all of our staff make this thing run. There is no job too big. There is no job too small in this district. Everybody needs each other, and I think if we remember that as we move forward, that we all play a part, I think will help us a great deal. Thank you, Madam President. I'm done.
Thank you, Dr. Lawrence.
That kind of changed my comments, Board Member Smith, Vice President Smith. I appreciate that. I attended McNary Elementary, Westwood Elementary, Drexel Elementary, Jane Addams Elementary. Stivers was a school for just freshmen, and there were about 1,500 students there. Roth High School, Dunbar High School. And my father sits right out there on that wall, 1957. He died about a year and a half ago. My sister is in here. She tragically died from an aneurysm in Chicago on the 91 picture. My other sister is in here, 1986, right in front of me. And I'm in here, 1984. And I would just say to the community that any changes I make, I'm from here. I've been here. I care about children deeply, and certainly keep supporting me with your prayers and comments, which are amazing. Kids from when I taught at Meadowdale, we are so glad to see you there. Kids from being an assistant principal at Stivers, we're glad to see you there. Kids that I taught at E.J. Brown that are now in their late 30s, which is shocking to me, we're glad to see you there. So I thank you for your support. And also, I'm engaged in earning my commercial driver's license with Dr. Goodwine. She and I are showing up at Welcome Stadium,
Riding the bus.
riding the bus every
Whipping
day.
it, not like that.
Yeah, 6 to 8 o'clock. I want folks to know that we will be on the road at some point, and look out.
Thank you. So I am not going to do second reading today because I feel like Board Docs has been down and people haven't gotten to see the policy, so I want to save it. Did any of you guys have any objection to that?
I actually had a couple questions about the policies that were for first reading, so I'm actually really glad that it's going to be,
Yeah,
the second reading
let's
will be.
just
Do you
push
want
it.
me to raise those now, or do you want me
Go
to
ahead.
wait? Okay. So my first question was about GBU. I'm scrolling, hang on.
The rehiring
So
policy?
this is file GBU, Relationships and Fraternization. Does this include board members in it? Should board members be included in relationships and fraternization? I believe that
Well,
they
we're not
should.
employees. I mean, the purpose of it, again, is to protect the district from people having sexual harassment claims against each other.
Right.
So, I mean, they technically, our remedy would be a court of law, so not
I mean,
necessarily.
I think that board members, between board members, between direct reports, between employees and board members, I think it's
I think
important
going
to
downward, yes.
explicitly include those.
So we can add those.
What
I agree with that
happens,
going
I mean,
down.
there should be a reporting process for if there is an improper relationship between board members or direct report or employees. I think that's important. These are our values, and I think that would be an important thing to add in. The same thing is for file JM, which is, I'm going to scroll again.
Student-staff relations?
Yeah, I think it's important to include board members in that as well, too. You know, we need to make sure that we are acting with all propriety and professionalism in everything that we do. And I think showing that level of professionalism from the top down should include board members explicitly. It does in other districts.
Any comments or anything from anybody? Okay. So yeah, these would be added next month to the policy reading. So please, community and actually staff members, because these policies apply to the people who work here. So please definitely take a look at them. And if you have any feedback or anything on them, they are housed in the superintendent's office, so check those out. So I have a couple comments I'd like to make. I do want to talk about a couple things. I definitely appreciate everybody up here for carrying the meeting on, because I was definitely on death's bed on our last meeting, and everybody up here just made it go smoothly and had us moving. So I do appreciate my colleagues for that piece. I do want to note some of my voting pattern in the past, because I'm getting questions about them, and I feel like, you know what, people voted for me, I should share some of the reasons I voted the way. At our special meeting, when I voted no on the assistant principals, my vote was based on, we had qualified individuals in our district who submitted for a position, and they weren't granted the decency of an interview. To me, that is wrong, because I think we have to value our individuals in that way. Luckily, we have put some policies in play to, at least, again, as we talk about really building our own internal culture and lifting up and giving people opportunities to grow here, that individuals who are qualified in our district will at least be granted an interview and an opportunity to compete for job openings. So that's the first one for me. On last week with the interim superintendent appointment, I abstained from the vote for the same logic, because I argued, or for myself, the week before, again, I argued that internal candidates should not be looked over. There were at least a couple other internal candidates. I'm a person about practice or procedures over preference in some areas, and I think I had to hold myself to that same standard of, if there are internal individuals, you should give them an opportunity to be some places. I say all that, I'm very excited about Dr. Lawrence, because I've been working with him for the last year, and he is an amazing individual. I said I was gonna go get a CDL. He met me up at the BNB next, and we're both now in this process. So the energy there, like, my abstention is not against Dr. Lawrence. It's my integrity will always come first in this position, despite any pressure from individuals outside of here. If I argue it on one side, I'll do it for the other side. I also want to say too, that as we move forward, like, I want to congratulate Dr. Lally on her new position. I am always in support of any person in this district, in any level, who finds something that is better suited for them. I never want to be a barrier or a person that talks down on you because you decide to do something else. And I think it's great. People find what works for them. Best of luck to you. This district is going to continue to move forward, and I hope that the individuals who are here, the same way I am rooting for Dr. Lawrence to be successful in his role, I am rooting for every person in this district to be successful in the roles that they have right now. When you all are successful, the district is successful. You can't have one without the other. It is impractical to root for someone's downfall in any way, shape, or form, and also say that the children of this district matter to you, the staff of this district matter to you, the volunteers of this district matter to you, and the community of this district matters to you. So I hope that people will give things an honest chance of actually being able to work and to speak and to talk and to put these collaborative ideas out. I'm also hopeful too that as in our training that we're going through, I've gotten a lot of respect for our transportation team. A lot more than I had going in, because I really didn't realize how much our individuals do to have some of the jobs that are not necessarily as an educator, meaning a teacher educator. And it's a lot of respect just when you just see someone else's life and you actually step into their shoes and you see some of the things they go through. My trainer is incredibly patient with me because I am not a great driver. And it is parallel parking. I was so happy when I was 16 that was not a part of the driving test, because I would have never passed. So to now see that someone is teaching me how to parallel park a big bus is amazing. And I mean, the woman should get, like Adrienne, she should get amazing everything, because, I barely could do that in my car. But I'm out there at Welcome, making it happen week after week to make that go. I do want to say I don't know what the future of this district is. At this moment, yes, we did appoint Dr. Lawrence as an interim. Doesn't mean that he won't be the superintendent. It doesn't mean anything. It means at the moment that was the best decision that this board as a collective made. This board has also not stated or made any deviation from our commitment to involve our community in being a part of deciding really who holds the permanent position in this entity. It is the same way that every day we are all on display and we are all judged by our actions and judged by how we treat individuals and how successful we are. I believe that is still going to happen for us. I believe we will know sooner than later if the board does intend to do a full-out search or if the board just decides to go forward with where we are right now. But we haven't made that decision as a collective group. It is my hope again that I know with anyone, like with our new superintendent, there are some individuals that have a different path with him. There are some individuals that have a great path with him. Give him a chance. Give him an opportunity to be judged and graded on who he is in this moment, of who he is in this time and space. Like the one thing that you can give everybody is grace and an opportunity to be who they are today and not who you met them years ago. Every day, right now today, one of my former teachers sits out in the audience and she hates when I tell the story of how I dropped her class because, it was a lot. Like, it was a lot. And right now we call it mental health, but at 16 going to Colonel White, it was stress. She was stressing me all the way out. But a 16-year-old me versus a 37-year-old me, I have grown a lot to go. Like, I probably could have just sucked it up, talked a little bit more, and not went to the tertiary class I went to that I don't even know what we did in that class. I did. It's okay, and I'm okay with that. But yeah, so I asked that, and I continue to echo that. This board has been one of the most embracing and open with hearing from our employees, our community, our team, and everything. Continue to lean on us. Continue to talk on us. I saw a policy recently at a McDonald's that was a no quitting policy that they implemented, and under the no quitting policy, they said no one can quit without talking to somebody from management, because the majority of problems can be resolved if you just go have a conversation about it and give us an opportunity to do something like that. Public education is a hard field to go into. It is difficult because the world changed. We all know that. Work with us. Give us an opportunity to be and continue to grow in the way that we've gone. We've gotten some great momentum going, and I'm just hopeful that with time, people will continue to gel together in ways that makes us a place that people want to work at, that people want to retire from, that people are excited when they get that offer from the district. We have the ability and we have the momentum and we have the opportunity to really grow as an organization and grow as a family and grow as humans together. So I thank you guys for indulging my rant. Let me check my notes to make sure I didn't forget anything. Because first, I did forget something. I want to give an amazing shout out to our audio visual and our PIO team because we had this crazy idea of taking board meetings to schools over the last 4 meetings. And every week they showed up, they put some tables and stuff together, they streaming it for us. I mean, give it up for the audio visual and PIO team because I mean, we give them unreasonable demands at times. Like, if you could just make a flyer that looks like this, that'd be great. But it's great to see that they're really out here for us on that one. And I look forward to, I want to say again, echo, Welcome Stadium is opening soon, guys. Please, please, please stay and follow the story because there's been a lot of work that has gone into that entity. And my final thought for you all before I go into this executive session, I will say that I always encourage any person that wants to be a part of the Board of Education to run and become a part of the Board of Education. This is your moment. Every 2 years, this board changes, and we are scheduled to change at the end of this year into a new group. Seek that information. I'm sure anyone up here will talk to you about it because it's not secret information. We are open to telling people not only what pushed us to run, but what got us there. Go for it. Be more than just someone that just criticizes. Become a part. And even if that's not for you, volunteer. Get into this district in some type of way. And also remember, all 9 of the individuals up here are people. So respect is a real thing. If you want to be respected by the people up here, you have to give them respect as well. We are humans. We have feelings. We read all the comments because people send them to us all the time. Just treat us the way that you would want to be treated. And if you really want to know something that's going on in this district, sit down and have a cup of coffee with somebody because I don't think anyone up here will turn you down. So with that, pursuant to section 121.22G of the Ohio Revised Code, I move that this board goes into executive session. This meeting is being held to consider the employment, dismissal of a public employee and prepare for review negotiations with employees regarding compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment.
Second.
All right, moved and second. Any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wiegany,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reiner,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
My name is Kevin G. Jewett. I work for Dayton Public Schools. I am a bus driver and OBI trainee at this time. When I joined DPS, it was at a time where me as a bricklayer, I couldn't find a job, and they have kept me working ever since I got here. Long as, you have integrity, they trust you. There's primarily integrity and trust. Long as you're fair about that, they're fair with you. A bus driver to me means freedom and integrity, issues that I can be trusted, and you can trust me with your children. The ones I carry, they know I'm gonna treat them, and their parents know that I'm gonna treat them just like I treat my kids. Zero tolerance, bullying, and whatever, and that I have their best interest. After all, they're the most precious cargo. I love driving. I never thought I would love driving, but I love driving, and I'll pick any kid up anywhere. And once they're in my care, you best believe I'm gonna do my best to protect them.
College career and military signing day is extremely important because students are making a commitment to themselves and their future. And what we try to do is encourage them to choose something that they're going to do that they'll move on